Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right. Good morning and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project. This would be the daylight savings time version. This is Robert and nope, this is Bob. There it is. I fucked up already. This is Bob and my very late, very groggy partner, Lalo. How you doing this morning, man?
Pretty good. Like you said, pretty groggy. I think this time change always messes me up, especially this one, the spring forward one.
Yeah, always fucks everybody up. I'm already used to it because I prepared for it by getting up early and going to bed early. So when I woke up, it wasn't that much of a change. I got up and did my exercises and did all the shit that I do at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm already used to it.
See, I'm the opposite. I go to bed late and then wake up late.
You got that. You got to burn that extra hour in the fall and fuck yourself out of it in the spring, right?
Exactly.
Well, I remember those days. I remember laying awake in bed at night, thinking, okay, 5 hours sleep is enough. And then, all right, 4 hours is enough. Oh God, 3 hours is cool. I can survive on 3 hours. And then the panic. Fuck, 2 hours. I'm going to die.
Yeah. I haven't done that in a while, but I remember I would go to sleep super late and I'd have to get up for work at 7 or 8 and it'd be 3:30 and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, but when you're young, you can do that shit. When you're old, you know that whole nightlife starting at 10 o'clock just means you're just starting to watch Family Guy and go to bed. Hey man, I did not get a chance to watch Trump ramble on for however long he rambled on at the PAC there, but I've been hearing a lot about New York and Michael Cohen. Did you see that thing this morning? He's been to the district attorney's office 7 times.
Michael Cohen, I haven't seen anything about him.
Yeah, he's been there 7 times, and he tweeted out yesterday morning, he's like, this does not look good for Trump. So he's being called back for an 8th time tomorrow. So whatever is going on is going to be, it looks pretty big. I mean, I don't know if Trump's going to jail, and I don't know if his supporters will, he grabs women by the pussy and he gets elected president. So I don't know, hey, he's a tax evader. And the people will be like, yeah, so.
Yeah, but I mean, part of me feels like whatever happens to him, he would just get pardoned by Biden, which kind of pisses me off. But
you think Biden will pardon him? Really?
Yeah, because Biden's very old school, kind of Democrat, and not even just Democrat, but just politician in general, where optics matter and all that stuff. And the whole thing, an ex-president in jail doesn't, optics wise, doesn't bear well for America. But so I feel like he would
the pardon do the Democratic Party any good? Is that, or is it just all about Biden?
When it comes to that, I feel like they're kind of on the same page. If it was the other way around, they would, the GOP would pardon, a Democratic ex-president or something like that, just because at the end, at the end of the day, they want to stay in power as politicians.
Right.
So optics is a big thing for them. And the Democrats are super soft. So they'll give in to anything.
Oh,
that's what pisses me off, man. With the whole stimulus relief bill, Republicans were super against the 15 minimum
right
wage, and a bunch of other things. And then the Democrats like conceded a few points, like they took out the $15 minimum wage. And then when they voted for it, there was still 0 Republican votes. So why the fuck are you going to give away all these things, like concede all these things, and then still get no votes from the other side? You could have just left it in there and still passed it with the same amount of votes. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, to me, that's what I hate about the Democrats. They're just soft and they like give in.
Yeah,
they should be ramming stuff down their throat right now.
But you just said it's about optics and it's about empathy. And so in order to look good, it's like, yeah, we took it out so we look good. And the Republicans still didn't cooperate with us. So it is about looking good. Hey, we did what they said and they still didn't do what we asked.
Yeah, and like they call it like a bipartisan bill. It's like they had 0 support from the Republicans. I don't see what's very bipartisan about that.
Well, that's politics, man. It's all a fucking circus game. We're just moved around like pawns on the board is all we are, and unimportant at that.
Yeah, that's true.
But here's the thing: I heard that, and I don't know. It's a conspiracy theory. I don't pay much attention to those, but I did hear that a big reason that they want Cuomo gone is so they can get a governor in there who will pardon Trump just in case things go wrong for him. So that would be 2 people who could pardon Trump at that point if you could get rid of Cuomo and get somebody who was in Trump's corner, which a lot of politicians are now, depending on the person.
I don't think Republicans think that far ahead. I think they just want him gone because of like his whole like sexual scandal thing. And there's a lot of Democrats that also like want him gone for that. So I can respect that. I mean, that was pretty shitty what he did too with the like senior homes.
Yeah.
And the numbers and all that. So, I mean, like, I'm not surprised that there's a few like Democrats that are also calling him for him to resign, especially like AOC that's from New York,
Yeah.
So, I mean, remember how I said last time how you're able to see a lot of criticism about the left from the left,
right?
And almost no criticism from the right by the right. I think this is one of those instances where, some Democrats, like regardless of who's doing what, like if you do a shitty thing, like they'll call you out,
Yeah, of course. I've seen that for a while.
Yeah, so I like that. Like, I mean, I'm not like just because they're Democrats, I don't think you have to like defend them, no matter what they do. Like if they fuck up, they fuck up. Like if they have to resign or if they have to get removed, like that's on them, regardless of what party they're from.
Is that a big difference between the 2 parties in your eyes? That the Republicans, they band together no matter what? If it's grab definitely. Them by the pussy or, whatever, doesn't matter. It's a Republican. We got to protect him no matter what.
Yeah. And I mean, it happens on the left too, but I feel like it's so much worse on the right. Like even like with Trump, like everybody was shitting on him, before he ran,
right?
Before he got elected, like all of this stuff he said about like Ted Cruz's wife and all these other like Republican candidates. And then like by the end of his first term, they were, praising him and like, advocating for him, trying to get him reelected. Like if someone said that stuff about your wife and you still support them, like even if it's just, for the job or for optics, like I don't know how you could do that. To me, that's just, I don't know. It's very cringy.
Can you hear those fucking conversations?
For real. And then you have to like go home to your wife and be like, babe, it's for work. I don't mean it. It's very sad.
If you want to keep living in this house and keep this kind of lifestyle, you'll take it. Okay.
You want to keep going to Cancun. So
That's bizarre, man. But at the same time, it is what it is. You're absolutely right. Those conversations do include things like, that this is the part of the job, and if you're going to be married to me, then you're going to have to take the abuse, and that's like, fuck. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't let somebody talk about my children or my wife or any of that shit and not defend myself to the end, not defend them.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, I know Ted Cruz went to Harvard and all, but he's still pretty fucking stupid for someone that went to Harvard. So they must be accepting everybody nowadays.
They must be accepting everybody. Well, they are. The Republican Party has changed immensely over my lifetime. We're talking about this Republican Party looks nothing like Reagan's party at all.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm going to say it's bad because even in Reagan's time, goddamn Lalo, I don't know, dude. I don't even know how to approach it because I didn't like them then. I didn't like them in the early, historically I wasn't viable in the early 70s. I was only 7, 8 years old at the time, but historically looking at them, I don't like what they were then. I don't like what they were in the 80s. I don't like what they've become now, but the Democrats are also different. It seemed like to be the politics seemed to be more about the people 50 years ago. And now it's more about power, more about staying in power, more about money and PACs and, big business supports everything now. So it's not about me at all anymore. I think that the Democratic Party was more about my grandfather than it is about me.
And I think that's where it started, to be honest. That kind of like shift of the tide was with Reagan, and like just his whole like vision for the economy and like the future and like his war on drugs and all this shit that he did.
Yeah.
I think it set the stage for the Republican Party to transform into what it is today.
Well,
Where it's, like you said, all about the power and, suppressing the vote and staying in power and, making all this money.
it seems to me like Reagan, we skipped over with Carter, okay, from early 70s, and then Nixon went out in 72 or 73, and then we had Ford, who did nothing. He played golf and fell down the stairs a lot. And then hey, Chevy Chase was awesome in Saturday Night Live doing Gerald Ford. But then we skipped over that era a little bit with the empathy of Carter. But Reagan picked right up where Nixon left off. Nixon accelerated the economy, accelerated the politics of the world, that world political construct. He got China in the mix. He brought that in. He started the war on drugs. Reagan just perpetuated the war on drugs and accelerated it. So I think it started with Nixon as the party, because he was such a fucking narcissist, dude.
I feel like you have to be president to some degree at least.
Well, Biden seems like my granddad. He doesn't, seriously, he doesn't.
Well, I remember reading that like Biden decided to run after, I forgot what he saw. I think it was the kid in the cages.
Yeah.
The kids in the cages. He saw like a picture, like an article or something. But I remember he mentioned that after he saw that, that's when he decided to run. So I'm sure there's other reasons and other factors, but.
Do you think those are true?
Maybe in part. I mean, it also makes sense that they would say that just for, like I said, optics, because it looks good. Like, oh, he's, once he saw this like human travesty, he, he decided to like step up to the plate and all that stuff.
But really, truly wasn't that travesty, I put that in air quotes, started by Obama?
Uh, by started, do you mean like, because what the main thing that Trump did was the whole like separation of families. Whereas when they were built, their purpose was they were just temporary holding facilities, you
Yeah.
know, quote unquote.
Like
Uh,
Guantanamo Bay,
yeah, pretty much.
that temporary holding facility.
And I mean, they were built pretty late into Obama's second term. So I mean, I haven't heard of any like family separation, stories from his term. They were probably just actually used as holding facilities. Whereas Trump's the one that started, the separation, which I think is what really hit a nerve with most people, especially seeing like those videos, of like the kids like crying and like just all alone by themselves. So I think that was the main like difference between the two
What
is the actual separation of the families.
what's happening now? Are they getting that taken care of?
Well, what's happening now is there's kids that are sent like on their own, like alone, to the border. So they would obviously they're already alone, and they're sent to these facilities for to hold, either to find their family or find like family here in the States, or reconnect them with. I'm sure the first priority is their family,
Right.
and if they can't be found, then they probably like go into the foster care system and then go from there. But I think like again, optics wise, since they're using the same facilities that Trump used, like the same physical buildings, it just looks bad. And then they ask them about it, and they just say, well, this is holding facilities. They're like temporary holding facilities. We're not separating any families and all this stuff. So then the Republicans just like eat that up, and they're like, oh, see, like, well, Biden's doing the same thing. I mean, it's not really the same thing at all, but just the fact that these facilities are still open and in use, even though it's a different use, yeah, it just looks bad.
Well, again, that's politics. When that first stimulus bill went out, it had a bunch of the exact same things in it that were in this stimulus bill, and the Republicans were behind it. And then it comes out again with the same shit in it, and the Republicans are like, "No, that can't happen." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing is happening. Don't change your mind because it's a different party in power. But what do you think? I gotta stop here because I don't understand, because I don't have what would you say? I don't have a dog in this fight. I was born here. My entire family was born here. We've been here since 1797. So there's nobody emigrating from anywhere around the world. I don't. What can we do about this, dude? There are like 14 million people in this country that they call illegal aliens. That I don't say that at all. I don't call them illegals. They're just fucking people trying to make a life. But how do we, how can Biden solve this? Can he just say you're all citizens and sign them in, or what? And then what after? What happens after that?
Okay, so there's been like a few like proposals as to how to solve, this issue. And there's a few fronts you have to deal with. So you have to deal with the people that are already here, and then the people that want to come here.
Right.
Um,
And the people
and
those people lined up on the border, and Jesus God.
right. So what I've always like proposed or talked about is for the people that are already here, it would be like what Reagan did, which is one of the very few good things Reagan ever did, was his amnesty plan. So for all the people that are already here, you give them some sort of pathway to citizenship. And there's been a few proposals. I think there's one on the House floor right now. But obviously, these people would be vetted. Background checks. It's like I'm sure the DACA program, right?
No, certainly.
You've heard of it.
Yeah.
So for that, like to qualify for that, you have to pass a background check. You have to have intent to go to school or work, either one. So it'll be something similar like that. And I mean, a vast majority of these undocumented people already work, and a big chunk of them, even pay taxes.
Sure.
Just because they don't have social security numbers doesn't mean they can't pay taxes. They can receive what's called an ITIN number, ITIN, and it's basically I think it's individual taxpayer identification number. So the government, when it comes to money, whether you're undocumented or not, they want their check, they get cut.
Certainly.
So if you don't have a social security number, they came up with this number that they could give you where, it's the IRS, they don't deal with immigration, but they say, if you use this when you file your taxes, you're able to pay them, And like I said, a lot of people, they come here for, a better life opportunity, to work, to, send money back home, to support their families. And they want to do, everything, right. They want to look good. So they'll use these numbers and pay taxes. So, if at the end of the day there's ever any sort of legislation passed, they have that history, of good Samaritans, of, they're paying their taxes, they're working, they're not here to, murder and rape and pillage like Donald Trump likes to say.
Everybody that comes across the border is a rapist.
Yeah. So, and I mean, these people contribute billions of dollars to our economy, not only, by just living in society, going to restaurants, buying clothes, buying all these things, but also by paying their taxes every year. So some sort of pathway to citizenship for them. They've talked about like giving them residency, and then like a 3 to 5 year wait period, then be able to apply for citizenship. And I mean, there's a few variations of that, but that's how you solve, that side of the issue. And then obviously when you, like, people outside that hear that, like, oh, they're giving them citizenship or residency, that's kind of like incentivize people to come over,
Yeah.
So one of the best ways to...
Yeah, because we just had that brain drain thing. Everybody is leaving. Everybody... Yeah, we're right. Losing a lot of people here because of our policies.
Right. So I think one of the ways to help fix that, and I mean, by fix, I don't really mean like make people not want to come, because I mean, I don't see anything wrong with, you wanting to emigrate to a country where you feel like you can provide better for your family. Because that, like I said, at the end of the day, that's what these people want.
Right.
That's their main issue, their main reason.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing.
So, I mean, even Ted Cruz did it, he tried to get his family out of the cold, so he went to another country. So, the second thing I feel like I would do is streamline the immigration process. All the legal pathways, make them a lot more streamlined. Some of these processes have like year-long waits, if not over 10 years. And it's pretty hard to wait 10 years to come here when, your life's being threatened by, the cartel in Mexico, or, something like that, when you're starving.
Right.
It's kind of hard to like, get in line and wait a few years. And, by the time you get accepted, like there's been a bunch of people that they die before their application even gets processed. So I feel like streamlining that, our legal immigration pathways would be huge, just for everybody,
Well, then you could you not categorize that, from From certain countries, you could be moved ahead of the pack because you're threatened by a cartel or you're.
Well, they have that. That's what the what is that one called? It starts with the A. Asylum. That's what asylum is. When there's like they have categorized countries that whether there's like a war going on or like you said, like cartel stuff like that, you could get asylum, request asylum, and kind of get shoved a little bit to the front. But the problem is the asylum process is so slow and so broken. The way it's supposed to work, and then this is like in the law of the United States, to claim asylum, you have to show up at a border like checkpoint in the United States. So you have to be in the United States to claim asylum. So like all those people that, are quote unquote crossing illegally, they have to do that and then go to like a town or a city or like a border station in the United States to be able to claim asylum in the first place. So if you're like catching all these people and like rounding them up as they're crossing and then you're just sending them straight back, you're not even giving them the chance to claim asylum, which is what the law says they're allowed to do. So you see how that's kind of redundant?
Yeah, it's like saying you have empathy and then not giving anybody a chance.
Right. So because you have to
setting the game against
physically,
them.
yeah, you have to physically be in the United States to be able to claim asylum. You can't just apply for it, from wherever you are. You have to physically be here. So it kind of doesn't make sense to have to physically be here and then don't let them actually physically come. So, I mean, there's asylum, there's citizenship through marriage. You could get it through your employer. But my issue with that is a lot of those visas that are given out like for work purposes or like employee purposes, they're usually like, because what it says in the law is people of, I think it's like extraordinary skill or special skill. So it's basically like, you would think that's like some sort of like super skilled like engineer or like
A physicist, something like
yeah,
that.
but like half of the time, if not more, it's like a model that wants to come over, someone that's like already rich or like a celebrity that wants to live here.
Oh wait, I think I know somebody. What's her name? Melania, is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what she got. Um,
She had exceptional skill.
so exactly. So I mean, that's a few of the ways that you can legally be here. I mean, another one is chain migration. So like your family, if you already have family here that are citizens, they could petition for you, but they have to be like immediate family. So it has to be like your brother or your sister, or like if you're here and then your kids are over there, you can petition for them. But even that, I mean, even myself, like I have a family that's, had to gone through that. And like I said, it takes years, if not decades, especially after 9/11. That put like a huge like delay on all those applications just because of like safety concerns and like fear,
Yeah.
and that's something that not many people know about. Like for like legal immigration pathways, 9/11 was a huge blow for that. And like I said, there hasn't been a real like immigration reform program or bill since Reagan in the 80s, and I feel like
It's
it's long
time.
overdue.
It's
Yeah.
time. Yeah. I hearing all that because I know Trump erased a lot of immigration policy, a lot of
Yeah.
it.
Statistically speaking, Trump cut legal immigration by over 50% just by making it like getting rid of some of these pathways and like constricting them and limiting them even more that they are now. It was just like a snail race. Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
Well, let me back up here. You were talking about, and thank you for enlightening me on all this. I probably could have done it myself, but like I said, I don't have a dog in this fight, so there's really no reason for me to look it up. And now that I'm interested in it, I'm only like 40 years behind, so whatever, I'll catch up. You said that there are countries on the list that, okay, this is happening, we'll say Ethiopia, where there's a famine and things like that. What about the countries where the policies of 9/11 conflict with the policies of immigration? And I'll give you a good one, Syria. There's a civil war in Syria right now over religion, more or less.
Yeah.
But it's based, it has this Muslim base and it has the Russians involved, and all this shit is happening in Syria. What about a country like that? Can you get asylum from Syria, or do they say, no, because of the 9/11 policies, we can't let you in?
No, yeah, you definitely can. They have what they do is, like I said, they look at these countries that are being, that are dealing with either like some sort of civil war or, like you said, famine, something that's causing like great distress in the country, and they allocate a certain amount of, pretty much a certain amount of visas per country. And not every country's on there. There's some countries that are pretty shitty that don't have, and not shitty as in like it's a shitty country, but shitty as in like there's shitty stuff going on in the country.
I was going to say, are you calling some countries shitholes there, Trump? Is that what this is?
No, I mean, like, there's some shitty stuff going on in these countries for the people that live there, and it's not on the list for the United States. So I mean, there's people that come over, every year from, places like Syria, Yemen, like Venezuela, places that, are dealing with these things. It's just like a small percentage. So it'll be like, well, we're getting 10,000 in total every year. We have to allocate those 10,000s to every country in the world that's, dealing with all this. So you'll get like 50 Syrian refugees a year.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by like, it's so slow, and it takes years, because I'm pretty sure there's more than 50 people in Syria that are trying to leave.
Well, the war in Syria has already killed 250,000 people, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how many people are being affected right now? And we'll take 50. We got 50 of you. I do know someone from Yemen who lives right here in my apartment complex.
Yeah. So I mean, it's possible. It's just very difficult. And I mean, it's not like we're the only country that's accepting like refugees. Like there's, Mexico accepts asylum refugees. European countries do the same. I remember a few years ago they had that whole like Syrian refugee like mass migration.
Oh my God, wasn't that horrible?
So
all those people walking out.
Yeah, so it's I mean, it's not like, oh, we have to bear all the like the burden of processing all these applications, like taking everybody in. Like that's not an issue. Like there's other countries that people want to go to.
But Americans don't think about that, Lalo. They don't think about that. They only think about what the United States is doing. That's it. We don't think outside our borders at all. So it's so fucking sad what we are. But let me say, in defense, I think probably if you go to France or Belgium or anywhere in the world, most of the people within those countries only think about what's going on in their country.
For most countries, yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, there's a few countries that they're very like accepting and kind of like, yeah, we'll take your sick and we'll take your poor.
Yeah. But do they have a big statue? That's the difference. We have a big statue. And Ellis Island, which is a tourist attraction now, we don't run people through that anymore. That's too easy.
Yeah. I remember its original purpose was to welcome immigrants to the United States.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And Lady Liberty was a gift from France because of our generosity to the world.
how the times have changed.
A little bit. Do you know? I was reading uh, talking about Syria. Reminded me. I was reading that you know that's 250,000 people that were killed there. Do you know why they were killed? And I'm not
Why?
loud. Because they're arguing over which sky ferry is right. I mean, basically, that's it. It's about religion.
That's like 90% of wars, if
It's
not higher.
fucking crazy, and y-
95% of wars are religion. The other five are like oil and resources. That's
y-
it.
yeah. Well, you got to say it's a mixture of because it can be about religion and land, and it can be about religion and oil, but it's always got this element of theology in it, ideology about our like I said, our sky fairy is correct and yours is incorrect or doesn't exist. So we have to squelch your ideas because they're dangerous to my ideas.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. I got this thing. I used to be religious. I and I and I mean, there's a difference between being religious and being spiritual. And no, I'm not a 14-year-old girl. Okay, I get I get it now that I'm older. There's a difference between being religious, which is like you attack people and you put them down for their beliefs. That's a religious element of it. Like let's say you're Israel and they rocket Israel for their beliefs in God, and that's wrong. And I got to say, I don't agree with all Israeli policies at all about seizing the land from the Palestinians. But that whole fucking fight is a 2,000-year-old fight over God.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say I grew up religious because I don't think, like deep down, I don't think I ever was like truly invested in it. But I was definitely raised religious. I was raised Catholic,
Right.
and I grew out of it pretty early on, just because I found it super like, I mean, as a kid, I just found it super boring, like having to sit in church, and like Catholic churches are like the most boring thing in the world, man. I don't know if you've ever been to one, but it's like
Yeah, I've
super
been to 'em.
echoey and like if you sit in the back, you can't even hear what they're saying, and it's just. I mean, as a kid, I don't see how any kid would enjoy that.
Well, up until a couple hundred years ago, all Catholic religious ceremonies were in Latin anyway. You didn't know what the fuck they were saying to begin with.
Yeah, so um, I'm kind of like in that same boat as you. That's why I'm a big. One of my favorite things about the Constitution is it clearly states that there should be a separation of church and state. And I think it was really good foresight by the forefathers and like all these people that wrote up the Constitution about how religion has caused so much damage. In my opinion, it's caused a lot more damage than good. So they wanted a government and a country that was able to run without religion. And I mean, I feel like the United States, if there was no religion, the United States would work very similar to what it does today.
I, I don't know, man. I don't see the big separation. I don't
Well,
see the
ideally, there should be a separation.
well, yeah. I mean, but I don't see it when you go. There's the Lord's Prayer, and there's all kind in God we trust is on the money. It's like, and we fight wars over religion. The separation seems to be what's the word I'm looking for? It's just it's not there. It's not there because
Yeah,
we say we're a Christian nation. We wrap up every government organization with a thank you, Jesus. We open everyone with a prayer. There's, it,
like
it's
God bless. God
Yeah.
bless you all, and God bless the United States.
And don't forget the troops, because God is with our troops too. And I used to be one of those blessed
Pretty
troops, and
sure,
I
pretty
didn't
sure
feel
if God was with the troops, I don't think there'd be much need for troops in the first place.
well. The history in our history, we've always been religious, always, even since we worded it out, but we're still doing it. We're still doing
Yeah,
it. We
I
still
think
kill.
we were like the United States was created on the basic, I don't know, maybe like morals or the basis of like Christianity.
Yeah.
Um,
Lip
but I think
service. That's the word I was looking for. Lip service. We pay separation of church and state lip service, but it's not real. It's not real at all.
yeah, I think it's a lot more real than like I think it's a very slow process. And I think a big deal of that has to do with the fact that the vast majority of this country is Christian. So the vast majority of the people running have to pander to those people because, like you said, faith is very strong for people. It's a very big deal for them.
Yeah.
So if you get a candidate that's like agnostic or atheist or even a different religion than most of the country, and they go up there and they say, I'm not religious, but I'll respect your religion and all this. I don't think they're gonna take it pretty well. They'd rather have someone that's up there like, yes, like I grew up with Christian values and all this bullshit, and it's pandering.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that's what's slowing down this whole separation in total.
Do you think, well, I happen to know, but most people think that Christianity and religion has always been a problem, but that's not true because the first, like for the first 300 years after Jesus, even up to the 11th century, the church taught pacifism. They taught pacifism, and then when the Crusades happened, that's when the tide turned. They got
Yeah,
attacked, and so they began to form armies to defend the faith. And defending the faith became more than defending the faith. It became you're going to believe like us or else.
yeah, and I mean, I'm being pretty like easy on religion, but I mean, to be honest, like I feel like hate is a very strong word when it comes to religion or to anything. But I've come to like strongly dislike religion,
Strongly dislike.
and not just because of my like personal experience with it, which I mean wasn't that bad. Like I said, I was just boring to me as a kid,
Right.
and I've given it a few other shots since then. A few years ago, I went to like a Christian church here in town, and it was in one of those like weird culty churches, like our friend Robert went to. This
Right.
one was actually pretty sane and normal, at least from what I saw. And I went for a good while. So it's not like I just went for one Sunday, and then went back to like quitting. But like in general, like I said earlier, to me, it's just caused so much more damage and harm, not just like in throughout history, but like for our country too. And it's just this like driving force of divisiveness to me. Like you said, like if you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah.
And for me,
False
like
dichotomy.
yeah, like saying that over some fucking book written like by who knows who, like who knows how many years ago. To me, just it makes zero sense. Like logically speaking, why you would be so like. I mean, I know that I get like the basis of religion, like why people like believe or want to believe. And I mean, it in part, if you think about it, it's like part of me like also wants to believe like, oh, that there's something after this life. I think that's what helps a lot of people get by and live their life to this preset set of morals. But I just think like an overall religion super like contradictory and super divisive and just super just bad. It's pretty annoying to me.
Well,
especially when people try to shove it down your throat,
I grew
and
up in a
then
house. Go ahead.
hate you for not accepting or viewing the world as they view it.
I
Like you
know.
said, there's thousands of sky fairies throughout history. You telling me you picked the right one? Nah, I don't. I doubt it, man.
I grew up in a I'm going to say a non-religious house, and I'm sure that you've known people who have been guilted by religion, and they're in and out of the religion. They go and they do bad things, and then they feel bad, and then they have one of those moments where they cry and they get right with God, and then they go back to the church, and then they wander out of the church. And that's the house I grew up in. My stepdad he was a violent man sometimes, and he would watch Jimmy Swaggart. I don't know if you know who Jimmy Swaggart is.
No, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Swaggart was a televangelist, one of the first televangelists. He was huge. He was all over the world. He was in 40 countries and blah, blah, blah. And he got caught with a prostitute in the end. But anyway.
That's usually how it happens.
Yeah, he went on TV and cried. And everybody was like, oh, okay, Jimmy Swaggart, you're cool. That's all right. And then he got caught with another prostitute. And that was kind of the end of Jimmy Swaggart. But anyway, my stepdad, was in and out of this Jimmy Swaggart Pentecostal religion. And that's where I grew up in that. And then after I separated from my family and I was married and just got out of the service and I was in this weird place and I got proselytized and got pulled into the church. And like you, I questioned it, and that's the one thing you don't do in religion. That is the one thing that is anathema. You do not question a religion, because if you question it, then you question God, and questioning God sends you right to hell. And so I spent really, Lalo, seriously, sadly, about 8 to 10 years of my life feeling like I was going to go to hell after I left the church. And I couldn't logically say it wasn't true. And even to this day, after spending all that time as a Sunday school teacher, as a person who read the Bible all the time, I wasn't one of those people that went to church and the pastor says, this is what the Bible says. I read it myself, and that's what drove me out. But I spent 8 to 10 years of my life in this guilt cycle of fear that I was going to burn in hell, until I realized after Jacob got killed, after that happened, I went on this, I guess, binge of looking at all the world's religions to try to figure out why you would take one of my kids.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a bad person. And bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. And then you read about karma, and you start looking at Buddhism and Taoism and Eastern religions and Westernized religions, African religions, ancient religions, modern religions. They all have this single thread of something that all religious people don't pay attention to, and that's the golden rule. All of them have it. Treat others like you want to be treated, and nobody fucking does it. No one does it.
That's true.
Yeah, we torture each other, religious violence and murder and death and violence against religious institutions, violence against religious people. Once this fucking Taliban bombed those 175-foot Buddha statues in Afghanistan because Buddhism didn't agree with their religion. So there's all this blowing up of religious events and killing of religious people, and it's so maddening. I do not hold it against the religious people themselves, because I know a lot of people who are so good-hearted that believe in Jesus or believe in Buddha or believe in Muhammad and Allah, and they're good people. They're good people, but the institutions that they belong to, you're exactly right. They're fucking evil is what they are.
Yeah. And like you said, it's been like that since the dawn of religion.
Yeah.
To me, religion is like scapegoat excuse for every like war that we've ever had, like in this world, you know? I mean, that's like the main driving force. You know, even as like looking back at the history of this country as what was that movement called where like the United States was like spreading west?
Oh,
When they said it was like God's will.
oh,
Uh,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
it's like divine something, no?
Yeah, it's divine something. It's like colonization, only God is involved.
Yeah. And it just, oh, it's so frustrating to me, like seeing all the evil shit that has been done because of religion. And like you said, there's a lot of good people that, you know, are religious, and you know, they kind of just tend to like use or like stick to like the good parts and like the moral parts, and you know, treat others with respect, and you know, love thy neighbor type stuff.
Hmm.
But to me, the majority is still on the other side. The majority of the people are, you know, like, oh, do this or you're going to go to hell. You gotta, you know, you gotta live like this. You gotta follow these set of rules. And you know, anybody that doesn't, they tell them like, oh, you're going to hell. Like people have told me that, like, oh, if you do that, you're gonna go to hell. I'm like, bro, if I don't believe in heaven, what makes you think I believe in hell? So good luck getting me to change what I do based on that. You know, it's like I saw this video. It's like it's not premarital sex if you never get married. So keep that in mind.
There you go. There you go.
So to me, religion is just, it's unnecessary. Because I mean, the way I see it, it was religion was created for, you know, even if you go back to like the ancient Greeks and like the ancient Romans, you know, they had, you know, their polytheism and like the belief of many gods and all these things. And to me, the reason they came up with that was just because they didn't understand how things worked. They didn't understand the way the world worked. You know, so they kind of had in their, they came up with this idea that, well, there has to be some sort of like, you know, higher being, you know, giving us the sun and giving us the moon and the water and all these things. And it kind of evolved from that to, you know, there's a singular God that, you know, that's the grand master and creator of all things. And, you know, he's all
Grandmaster
good.
Flash.
He's all good and he's all powerful. But if he's all good, then why is there war and famine and destruction and death? And, you know, people say, well, you know, that's humans' free will. It's not really God's responsibility. And it's like, well, if he's all good, he would stop that. And if he can't stop that, then he's not all powerful either. So what is he if he's not all good and he's not all powerful? You know, people love to talk about miracles and like, oh, you know, I prayed and you know this miracle happened. I don't think people really understand what the word miracle means.
Yeah.
A miracle is not, you know, there's millions of people with fucking cancer in the world and one person gets cured. You know, that's a medical anomaly. I don't think that's a miracle.
Right.
A miracle would be God giving that double amputee his legs back.
Yeah,
That's a
he'd wake
miracle.
up with his legs. You're like,
Yeah,
holy shit, that's different.
that's a miracle. And I don't know about you, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that headline in any news source lately. So to me, it's just this like revolving door of excuses for people to honestly to do bad shit, and like give themselves an excuse to be able to do this bad shit just because, oh, you know, well, God said it's okay, or this is what it says in the Bible, so it must be right. And
Well,
I'm just like, fuck that, man. That's fucking stupid.
did when the Europeans colonized North America, now that's Cortez and all the way back from Spain coming over. All that was done in the name of the Catholic Church. That was funded by the Catholic Church. It was, you know, the kings and the queens were involved in the Catholic Church. Do you know 60 million fucking people died in the colonization of North America? And when North when Europe invaded, and I'm not going to say colonized, Africa. I'm going to say fucking invaded up until World War One, which that colonization was the cause of World War One. If you didn't know that, 100 million fucking people died. So that's 160 million people just in colonization. Now,
That's crazy.
yeah, that's fucking crazy. 250,000 in Syria. They say that 100,000 Christians are killed each year because of their faith. Now, it sounds like we're just railing on Christianity, but no. The Islamic people kill Christians, and the Christians kill the Islamic people. The Palestinians kill the Jews, and the Jews kill the Palestinians. It goes both fucking ways. Christians are dying. Jews are dying. Islamics are dying. Muslims are dying. It's insane, dude. It's insane. I have a friend who grew up in Israel, and she said it was completely normal to be drinking coffee on the Miranda, and the alarms would go off, the horns would go off, and everybody would just pick up their coffee, continue their conversations in the basement till the ground stopped rumbling, come back up and sit on the veranda and watch the firefighters put out the fires and the dead bodies get taken away while they finish their coffee. The normalization of religious violence in our world is fucking atrocious. It's okay. It's fine.
And I feel like that's something people never talk about, like the reason behind these conflicts and these wars. Like, it's not really dissected very much by, the news or, people in general. It's like you said, it's been so normalized that it's just kind of like, oh, this country's fighting. Okay. You never question, like, wait, why are they fighting? Oh, because of that book? That makes no sense. Why are they doing that? That's pretty fucking stupid. We should probably, do something about that.
What, ban the book?
I mean, and to me, that's the thing. How do you like change that? How do you change this perspective that we have? It's pretty hard to me. But what I do see is a big trend of less and less religious people, especially with like the younger generations. In this time of like technology and like everything that we just have to do, I feel like religion has started to take a back seat. At least here, like from what I've seen. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably a little bit different in like fucking like the southern states,
Yeah.
I'm sure over there it's still like, God, church, and every Sunday and Wednesdays and or whatever days they go.
Yeah,
But
it's Sunday, and Wednesday is prayer meeting, and usually the Pentecostals meet on Friday night for a big end of the week, talking in tongues and handling snakes and all the shit that they do.
yeah,
I've actually been to one of those churches. I'm not being facetious. I went to a church in West Virginia on the Kentucky border where they handled snakes, and it was very interesting. But
sounds very culty.
yeah, it is. It is. It started. They don't always handle snakes, so you get lucky when you go to these churches. But the pastor will get up there and just like any motivational speaker will whip the audience into a frenzy. If he can do it at the right time, then the snakes come out. And they don't really like, Lalo, they don't really like hold the snake. They toss it. So the snake never gets, it never gets in a strike position because it's always up in the air. Or so it's a really odd thing to watch. And no, I did not participate. I stood in the back of the church because I just really wanted to watch. At the time I was a religious person, but the handling of snakes I thought was tempting God. In my mind, I thought, this isn't right. This isn't right.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it's not like we're trying to bash on. At least I don't think you're trying to bash on like just Christianity and.
Absolutely not. I'm not bashing on. Let me be very clear before we get off here. I want to be super clear to everybody who's listening and everybody who's wanting to attack us. I am not attacking beliefs. I am not attacking Christians, Muslims, Jews, none of that. If you want to pray to your God every night, I meditate. Some people call meditation prayer. Some people call prayer meditation. It doesn't matter. If you are living a good life and paying your little taxes and going to work and taking care of your family, and you happen to believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins, power fucking to you, brother. I really, if it keeps you calm and nice and cooperative, that's great. What I am attacking is the son of a bitch that gets on TV and says the church needs money and takes from people and flies around in a jet, and the motherfuckers that cause wars over, the Ayatollah who denounces everyone who doesn't believe like he does. That's the people that I'm going after. The organized religious leaders who are the fucking problem. The people are not the problem. It's the zealots that follow them and the leaders that lead and incite violence. That's the people I'm going after.
That's another thing I don't like about religions here in the U.S. is they don't fucking have to pay taxes. Like, they should definitely be able to, or they should definitely be forced to pay their taxes on, the money they take in. Because like you said, it's millions of dollars for some of these churches, and it's all tax free.
Yeah.
And and it stays with these, like you said, all these like TV evangelicals, and it stays at the top, and they just continue this driving force of like spreading hate disguised as God's word, And like you said, we're not like bashing these individual people that
definitely not.
that are good, or that, like you said, if you want to be home and like pray and, read your Bible, or, whatever practices your religion consists of. Like, that's all, to me, that's all, fine and dandy. But at the same time, you have to recognize that there are those people that, are pretty fucking crazy. Sometimes through no fault of their own. They're just like brainwashed, or, what be it. But I feel like as, quote unquote good Christians, you also have, or, good Catholics, whatever it may be, you should also be able to recognize that and acknowledge that and denounce that,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you're all going to get clumped in together. So the more you can do to like separate yourself from them, I think the better it would be for, your individual religion. Because like you said, there's good, like people of like, for example, like Muslim faith that, are just in general good people. But when they tell you like, oh, I'm Muslim, there's almost like this negative connotation that goes along with that just because of, our history here in the United States.
Right. Right.
So I feel like it's not just enough to, if you're a good Christian, or a good Jew, or a good, Catholic, it's not just enough to, stick to your practices and, continue to be a good person. But I feel like it's almost, not, I wouldn't say like all responsibility, but you should be like kind of motivated to like, help turn the page on, or on the negative stereotypes of your religion that the world sees, because at the end of the day, like, you you value your morals, and you just want people to know that you're a good person. But I will say, if you're those people that try to like force your religion on somebody else, or like denounce other religions because it's not your own, then you could fuck off.
You can fuck off. If you try to say, my religion is very nice and we're good people and everything, and I politely decline, and you say, okay, that's cool, that's fine, because that's what the Mormons do. That's what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they'll knock on your door and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about the good news. All right. No, at the end of the day, I'm going to say, no, not in the cards, because, I'll close with this, man. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head when that last statement you made, because Jesus taught pacifism, empathy, love, kindness. Everything you can think of is in that book, is in those 4 books of the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the teachings of Christ. The Apostle Paul in his epistles reiterated time and time again: kindness, love, charity, give, turn the other cheek, don't, all these things. And somehow turn the other cheek is turned into, rocket your enemies back. Kill them back. Spill their blood too. If they're going to spill your blood, it's that Old Testament thing of an eye for an eye, and that's what they hooked onto, and that's all there is. But Jesus, if he was real, I don't know. He was just a fucking guy in my book. And if you take the Bible literally, I think you need to stop and think about Grimm's fairy tales. You need to stop and think about what literature really is. You need to stop and think about theology and philosophy, and turn all that into a belief system that's viable, that can get along with other people, instead of saying, if you don't believe like me, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah. I mean, to me, at the end of the day, it's, you could practice whatever religion you want. As long as it's not hurting anybody else, I really don't care.
There you go.
The moment it starts to impact someone else's life against their will or against their wishings, that's when I take an issue with it. That's why I'm so, like, when people give that whole, like, pro-abortion or anti-abortion stance based on their religion, like, that's not a valid argument. If you want to make any other type of argument for, against abortion, I'll be able to listen to it and hear you out. But the moment you say, oh, it's because of my religion, I kind of don't give a fuck. I kind of, like, I don't give a fuck about your religion. Why would I care what it has to say? And I don't mean that, like, I mean, it sounds kind of fucked up. But
You're a fucking trip, Lalo.
I don't care about what your book says. So when it says you shouldn't do something, I also don't care about that. So, and I don't care as in, like, I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that. So I'm sure there's good things in there, and I'm sure there's some weird shit in there too.
Yeah, there is. I've read the whole thing. I read the whole thing, and I was like, I don't know how you believe this.
So, like I said, the moment it starts to impact other people's lives, that's why, like, when it comes to ideas or even like policies or legislation, like, I don't know if you saw, there's like this bill being proposed in Texas to make it be able to give out the death penalty for someone that gets an abortion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I saw
fuck, man. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Well, it's Texas.
So yeah, just
Yeah, have you ever been to Texas?
no.
Yeah, don't. No, Austin's a really nice town. It's really progressive. There's a lot of good music there and a lot of things. But
Yeah, Austin, Dallas, it's weird how all these big metropolitan cities tend to be more democratic.
yeah,
All these places where the economy does well and is booming and people live happy lives. It's weird how those tend to be democratic, but that's another conversation.
the correlation between money and how religious people are. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, just do your thing. It doesn't really matter. I don't care. I don't care if you do it. I don't care if you don't. I just don't fuck with other people's lives or other people's
There you go, man.
livelihood.
Let me. We got to close. We're over an hour, but I got to say this to everyone out there who is listening. When I talked to a Buddhist, and they really don't care if you believe like them or not. Buddhism is about self-enlightenment, self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, all those things, and how you treat other people in regards to you're good to yourself first. Christianity, not so much. And it's more about you're going to be good or I'm going to fucking burn you in hell. And I can't reiterate enough that your loving God that you call Father, okay? If he really truly is a father, I don't think if my kids didn't believe in me that I would punish them in an eternal lake of fire forever because they didn't believe in me. That's kind of cruel. That's kind of cruel. That's kind of, it doesn't make any sense. So be kind, just be kind to each other, everybody. Okay. Don't bring your belief systems into it, your ideology and the construct of your religion and the construct of your book. Just be kind to each other. It's real easy to be kind to a person without bringing up some sort of Jesus is making me, or I feel this tremendous amount of fear that I'm going to go to hell if I'm not a nice person. Be a nice person.
And I feel like if you have to be driven to be a nice person by, a book, then
you're not a nice person.
Yeah. If the only reason you're trying to be nice is to, make it somewhere after you die, then you should really reevaluate your moral compass in general.
There you go. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for waking up. Thanks for waking up on time. Not.
I'm telling you, it messed me up.
All right, man. Hey, Lalo, have a day that you intended to have. All right.
All right, man. Thank you. You too.
All right, brother. This has been Bob
and Lalo.
And remember, it wasn't against you, Mr. Christian or Miss Christian. It was against your religion. And there's the very, very great possibility that Lalo and I were thoroughly fucking wrong. See you next time, man. Later. You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching The Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.